Thank you. I appreciate the introduction, and really excited to be here. I'm not sure why I'm here. I am the lowest tech guy in the room. I have 0 startups to my name. I have never been on a reality show. I don't make $1 million a minute at work. I go to work in an office. I don't work at Starbucks. I don't surf every morning. But I was asked to come and talk a little bit about healthcare, which is what I do on a day-to-day basis. Despite all these things I put in there to fluff it up, I'm a doctor. And every 15 minutes I see a patient, and that's what I've been doing for the last 16 years, and probably will do for the next 26 years or so. Healthcare reform does not fit into 18 minutes, and I'm told I will be kept to 18 minutes, so my timekeeper has already introduced herself to me. I do want to touch some points. If you want to come up between the presentations, you have questions for me, please feel free to. I do not Twitter. I do not have any Facebook friends. I do email, so you can actually reach me. And believe it or not, I carry something called a business card, so I actually have some of those if you do want to get in contact with me. So if we can move the slide, if we'll go ahead and get started. What are some of the issues we face in healthcare? You've heard about a lot of these. One is we are all getting older. And I was expecting a bunch of college students here tonight, but I'm glad to see we have some adults in the audience. Some of you have probably even gone to a doctor in your life. But there's no question, when you look at what's happening in the United States, the curve is marching to the right. People are living longer. People are living into their 80s, 90s, 100s, and above. And these people are going to need health care. The burden of the uninsured is very significant in this country. There are, by some estimates, 50 million people that lack health care coverage. And I can tell you that many of these people need care. I provide care to many of these people. I don't have the capacity to provide care for 50 million. Well, it always comes down to money, and we're going to talk a little bit about money tonight. We're going to talk about where the dollars go and where the dollars need to go. I'll talk a little bit about the workforce, who's going to take care of all these people. And I will talk about technology. I don't know anything about it, but I will talk about it, and I'll even try a magic trick of my own tonight. So if we can go ahead and do the next slide. Well, the biggest issue is going to be cost. And certainly the increases we have on a yearly basis are not sustainable. Does anybody know how much we spend in the United States in 2010 on healthcare? Estimate of $2.6 trillion with a T. By 2018, if we don't change what we're doing, estimates are $4.35 trillion. This is government data, I'm not making this up. Currently we're at about 17.7% of GDP that we spend. And if we don't change things, we'll be at 20% by 2018. It's too much. We cannot continue doing what we're doing. Okay, next please. We also have a problem with there's not enough of me. And as much as I would love to clone myself, there are very few what are called primary care doctors, which is what I do. I see people on the front lines, high blood pressure, diabetes, colds, depression, that's low back pain, that's what I do every day. Estimates are we're going to be short in this country of MDs and DOs that do primary care by about 100,000 within the next 10 years, okay? And we're going to try and take care of this extra 50 million people that aren't getting health care at this point. Well, to make matters worse, there's a lot of other people involved in health care. I happen to be married to an RN, and we're going to be short about 250,000 RNs by 2020 if we don't do something. 250,000. Isn't that bigger than the population of the county here, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere around there? If you go deeper, you look at the people that work in the hospital, that work in the laboratories, that help you when they do x-rays, people called radiation techs. Nobody's training them. There's nobody out there to fill these slots. And we are really approaching the edge of the cliff. Now the rise of the mid-levels is not Terminator 4. One of the things we are attempting to do is replace people like me with people who are called physician's assistants or nurse practitioners. And this is a subject that requires a lot more than 18 minutes, but basically what we're doing is we are taking people who have significantly less training than MDs or DOs, we are plugging them into spots on the front lines. And in addition to the front lines, we're plugging them into spots on the back lines. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I happen to work with PAs every day. I've worked with nurse practitioners. Some of them are absolutely fantastic. I could not run my office without them. But this may not be the only answer. It may just be part of the answer. The demographics are changing. The doctors are getting older. Doctors want to retire. They don't want any part of healthcare reform, I can tell you that. Another thing that's changing, and don't start throwing things at me, but the face of the medical force is changing, okay? In this country, for many, many, many years, the face of the doctor has been pale and veiled, okay? What we are seeing, and this is a very good thing, we are seeing diversity in medicine. Doctors, people entering medical school now, it's about 50-50 male-female. We're still short. There are a significant number of underrepresented minorities. Why is this important? It's important because from a cultural standpoint, when you go to the doctor, if you feel like the doctor understands you, if the doctor speaks your language, you do better. Studies have shown this time and time again. We have a significant problem here locally. I work down in Santa Maria, and we have about 10,000 Mixteco Indians, indigenous tribe in southern Mexico. They come here for usually agricultural work. They don't speak Spanish. They speak a number of dialects called Mixteco. Very few people speak Mixteco. I misspoke. They're Oaxacans, not Mixtecos. Their language is Mixteco. The language isn't written. It's an oral language only. So when you're trying to come up with a handout sheet, there's no written language. Okay. So now I need people that are trilingual to come work for me. We could move ahead. Oh, one other thing. You don't need to move back. In addition to the changing face of the physician, doctors want to work less. On average, female physicians work about 8 hours less per week than male physicians. And when you talk to doctors that are finishing their training now, all they tell you is, I just want to work 8 hours a day and take my paycheck and go home. Nobody wants to work nights and weekends. In the old days, medicine was a calling. Now medicine is becoming a job. All right, technology. EMR stands for electronic medical record. I tried to type in EHR for electronic health record. PowerPoint wouldn't let me do it. It kept switching me back. The government has offered us money to help pay for electronic health records in our offices. But it must meet a definition of something called meaningful use. Now, if any of you can tell me what meaningful use is, I would really appreciate it, because the government so far has not told me. So for me to take a stab in the dark of about probably $20,000 to $40,000 per each provider in my office to set this up and not know if I'm going to get any reimbursement for it is a big, big step. Another problem we face in medicine is with all the fancy toys we have. You've heard of CAT scans and PET scans and MRI scans and whatnot. Imaging is really cool, and we use it way too much. Okay, I've heard in the past, I don't know if it's still true, but I heard there were more MRI machines in the city of Pittsburgh, which is not a particularly big city, than in the country of Canada. I don't know if that's still true or not, but if it's even close to being true, isn't that a little bit of excess? Also, the promise of molecular medicine. I mean, we need to rein in costs, but we have all these cool things coming down the road. Gene therapy is so promising. I look at the technologies that we use today in medicine. I look at what I used 20 years ago when I was in my training. It's a night and day difference. I could go into example after example of diseases that we could not treat 20 years ago. Okay, when I was a resident in San Diego back in the early 90s, a person got AIDS, they were dead within 3 years. Now people with AIDS, they lead normal lives. They work, they're healthy, they're happy, they do whatever they want to do. They take a lot of pills perhaps, but they're alive. Some of them have been alive for 30 years with HIV. It was unheard of 20 years ago. Next, please. All right, well, the government took 1,100 pages to come up with healthcare reform. I'm going to try and do it in one slide. It is going to be phased in over the next 8 years. Actually, some of the changes are taking place right now. And in their infinite wisdom, the government picked the easy stuff first. They decided that kids could stay on their parents' health plan until they're 26. That's popular. People like that. It's actually a really good idea. But the big changes are coming in about 3 or 4 years. So we kind of have a little break right now.